What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, in today's video, we are going over Solana as its price does seem to be making a nice little retracement at the moment. Now, in yesterday's video, I told you guys that we needed to be on the lookout for this. You know, people were buying in Solana. I know even people within some of my group, they're like, oh, I bought some Solana at, 170, or I bought some at 179. And I'm like, realistically, we've not really done anything too significant to the point that I would say justifies a purchase. Now, I do love the fact that Solana made this move back into the wedge. We talked about that. We saw the fake out to the upside, saw a breakout to the downside. I said, if this level, this $145, I said, if this doesn't hold, likelihood is, guys, we're going back towards 120, likely even $110, $115 down here, right? But what we could see is that we broke to the bottom side. We saw the support establishment on our Fibonacci's and the push back into our wedge to enter into a moment of neutrality with this descending wedge here. And so what that means for us is that now we need to be paying even more attention to where does this thing go, because likelihood is the next direction that it's going to break out of is going to have a significant impact on what the market does, especially in the short term. So with that being said, of course, let's go ahead. I'm going to tell you guys what I'm looking out for Solana. I'm not telling you guys what's going to happen today. I don't, of course, have a crystal ball. I'm telling you guys what I'm looking for to happen and when I would be buying. So with that being said, of course, let's go ahead and let's get into it. So there's two key things that I'm focusing on right now. The two key things are going to be these two levels of support on Solana and the Bitcoin charts. Now, the reason that I'm focused on the Bitcoin charts is, as we mentioned in the last video, Bitcoin is in control of this market. On the days that it's green, the market's green. On the days that it's red, the market's red. And as you can see, we are getting extremely close to seeing a breakout from Bitcoin, whether to the upside, to the downside. Of course, I have no idea, but optimally, obviously, we want to see this break of trend here. But if any of these happens, it's going to pull the rest of the market with it. So combining my Solana technical analysis with my Bitcoin technical analysis is the way in which I'm going to gauge what I think is going to happen. So right now, what I'm noticing is the fact that a lot of our cryptos approach their, of course, key 618 to 786 Fibonacci zone. Now, what we could see from Solana was that the first time in which it approached and entered into this zone, realistically, the 618, 786 zone, the green box here, was outside of its wedge. And we noticed that almost all of our cryptos came down into this box, which is why we saw the breaking to the downside of this wedge. But since we were able to use it as support and work our way back up, I think we can take that with a sign of confidence to say that now our 618 to 786 box is within our wedge. It's sitting right here. We have all of this Fibonacci support here to hold the price up from seeing the collapse back down through the bottom side of this wedge. And so I would go ahead and say that I am looking absolutely very, very close to make sure that we are able to hold some support on, at minimum, where this wedge is, whether it be 164 all the way down to $153 by January 5th. I need to see that we're able to hold this bottom side here, because if we're not, there is again a strong likelihood we come back to retest this $145 zone. And you guys know that if we lose this, we're looking at more of a significant fall to the downside. Now, I think in the event in which we would see this level hold, we would also be looking at Bitcoin's charts holding as well. I think at that point, we would start to see a bit of a reversal and maybe even the breaking of our more macro trend line that we've been within for the last about, 6 weeks roughly. I think if we're going to see Solana hold, it's going to be extremely reliant on Bitcoin working its way and maybe even seeing this break of trend here. Maybe not even necessarily this trend, right? Maybe not even the short-term one, but at least this macro trend. I think that will be extremely important, and I'm watching to see both of those happen at the same time. Now, if we start to see Bitcoin's price break to the top side of both this short-term trend and its macro trend, I am under the belief that Solana is going to see the break to the top side of this wedge. I think we're going to see the push to $200 if that does happen. On the opposite though, this is the inverse. What happens if we go to the downside? I'm under the belief that if Bitcoin starts to work its way back down and we see the break of trend here back towards $42,000 to $43,000, don't be surprised to see Solana make a similar move where it gets pushed back towards $148 to $145. Remember, I'm not here to tell you guys what is going to happen. I'm here to prepare you for what could happen. And at the moment, we are at an extremely it's a very strong balance, a 50-50 balance of if this market is going to decide if it's going to the top side or if it's going to the bottom side. And personally speaking, I'm not going to be doing much buying here because I am kind of letting this thing play out. Sometimes the best thing you can do as a technical analyst analyst is to simply just let it play out. I would go ahead and say that the favor is probably in the, you know, on the side of the bulls. I would say there's probably a little bit more of momentum towards the bull side, especially considering looking at things such as the MACD on the daily charts, as we are looking to try to see some convergence here. Things do feel a little bit more bullish than they did, say, back here. But overall, when you look at something like the RSI, right, we can see that we saw some bearish divergence. So although we're seeing bullishness on the MACD, we saw here that we went up and set a new higher high on the RSI while setting a lower high on the charts. So what that tells me is that there is too strong of a balance between bullish and bearishness right now, especially considering this little accumulation and consolidation in which we're seeing from Bitcoin, for me to go ahead and give a confident, I think it's going upwards, think it's going down. I'm not a superhuman. I have no clue sometimes, but I can tell you guys how you can identify where the breakout's coming from and what you can expect after that. So realistically, over the next 48 hours, all I'm doing is watching this interaction that happens here, seeing if we can find some support. And if we lose support, I'm going to anticipate a retest back towards $145. So with that being said, if we see the breakout to the upside, be looking to see Solana work its way back up, you know, probably at this point to $190 to $195. We're running very thin. I mean, this breakout with Bitcoin will happen pretty soon. And as that does happen, it's really going to set the tone for what the rest of the market does. So definitely do stay tuned for that. But with that being said, that's going to be about it for today's update. That's what I'm seeing from the charts. And I hope you guys do appreciate the fact that I'm not just going to shill it here. I'm not just going to hype things up here. I'm not just going to be a moon boy all the time. I have my moments, of course. I'm going to give you guys just what I'm seeing, and that is exactly what I'm seeing at this point. So with that being said, again, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, you can let me know by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you are new, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.